What's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, we've got an update directly from the IFBB as it pertains to this new pro card rule that we talked about in the last video, this whole inactive for 3 years, getting your pro card revoked, then having to go back and re-earn your pro card if you don't keep up on your membership. So this was a big topic of conversation a couple days ago, and it appears that the IFBB has listened to that conversation as they provided further clarification for what these rules mean, and they gave some examples. So I wanted to go through that at the top of this video because I think it really clears things up. So the main thing here is IFBB Pro League athletes are not required to hold an active status or sign an athlete membership agreement and pay a membership fee every year. IFBB Pro athletes who are active members may choose to become inactive members by allowing their active memberships to expire. Active membership automatically expires at midnight on December 31st each year unless the member renews before this date and time. As of January 1st, 2024, IFBB Pro athletes who are active members who choose to become inactive members may remain inactive for up to 3 calendar years. Inactive members who do not become active members within the 3-year period lose their IFBB Pro status and must requalify through a Pro Qualifier contest. IFBB Pro athletes who held IFBB Pro status, and this is one of the important points here, before January 1st, 2024, but who were inactive, may remain inactive without the loss of their IFBB Pro status. When they register as an active member, they will then be subject to the 3-year rule. So they give a couple examples here to further clarify that point. Example 1, being an IFBB Pro athlete becomes an active member by signing the athlete membership agreement and paying the membership fee on May 1st, 2024. The athlete competes on May 18th, 2024, and then decides to take time off and does not renew for 2025. In this instance, the member's active status automatically changes to inactive at midnight on December 31st, 2024. The member may remain inactive for up to 3 years or until December 31st, 2027. If the member does not become active by December 31st, 2027, the member's IFBB Pro status will be revoked. To regain IFBB Pro status, the member must requalify through a Pro Qualifier contest. And then example 2, an IFBB Pro athlete last competed in 2019 and has not since renewed. The athlete registers as an active member on January 3rd, 2025, and therefore is now subject to the 3-year rule. So I guess the main purpose of this is like an example of somebody that hasn't competed in years, like up until this point, like a retired former pro. If they want to maintain their pro status, at least this is the way that I'm reading this, if they want to maintain that IFBB Pro status, and maybe they haven't competed in 10 years, 5 years, whatever, they can register as active right now, and then that's when they are subject to the 3-year rule. So up until this point, if you've been 3 years inactive or whatever, it doesn't matter as long as you register now. And again, I think the other key point here is that this is not directly tied to whether someone competes or not. This is just all about active membership status and membership fees. You can pay the membership and be active without competing, just as long as you maintain that active status by paying the fees. It's really all it is. It's really not that big of a thing. And I know another thing that I saw discussed a lot was like if someone hasn't been keeping up on their pro card for 5, 10, however many years up until this point, I saw someone say like, well, would they have to pay like the back pay to become active again? Like if they were inactive for 5 years, would they have to pay 5 years of membership fees to become active again? And the way that this reads is no, as long as you register now, you're paying that current year's registration, and that's all you need to become active again. So really a lot of it is just the same stuff that we already talked about, but they just added further clarification and examples of how it would apply to any given pro. And again, I think it's just really not as big of a deal as it became. So I wouldn't worry too much about your favorite pro losing their IFBB pro card. As long as they register this year, they're fine. Now, next up in the news, we got another sneak peek of Samson Dauda at now under 6 weeks out from the 2025 Arnold Classic, showing off a little bit of that Christmas tree. And honestly, I really don't know what to say about Samson that I haven't already said, looking at some of these recent updates. I mean, I think it's pretty undeniable at this point that he looks pretty incredible. And I was watching the new Cutler cast yesterday, and Jay and manager Matt and Milos, they all kind of agreed the same thing that I said. I think that this version of Samson and all these updates that we've seen building up to the Arnold, to me, and to them too, it looks like it's a better version of Samson than we got at the Olympia. He looks improved. His conditioning looks like ahead of schedule compared to the Olympia updates. And I think this Christmas tree update, if you will, I feel like it's just another reinforcer of that. And it just feels like for everybody else competing at the Arnold this year, it's going to be a very steep uphill battle if anybody else has any intention of winning that show, because Samson, already going in with the advantage of being the reigning Mr. Olympia, and then looking like this in these updates, it's very difficult to imagine that he's going to be defeated here. And then next up in the news, we did get a new physique update from Nick Walker yesterday as we get closer to the Pittsburgh Pro, hitting a front lat spread, which I think most people would probably agree is one of, if not Nick's weakest pose. And while I do feel he's improved this pose, it looks better in this picture as far as the amount of width in his lats that you can see from the front, I do honestly feel like his waist looks pretty thick in this update, which again was a big point of criticism for him at the New York Pro last year. And the update that we got a couple days ago was a most muscular with his hands clasped in front of his midsection, so you can't really see what his abs were looking like. And you can kind of see it more clearly here. And I think that's one of the reasons why the front lat spread hasn't been that great of a pose for Nick, is because his taper in that pose, it's just not the greatest. I mean, I think if you put it side by side with a guy like Andrew Jack, for example, which is a bit of an unfair comparison because Andrew Jack, in my opinion, has probably one of the best front lat spreads in the IFBB right now. But just to really showcase some of those differences and why people think this is a weak pose for Nick, I mean, it's like a night and day difference the way that Andrew Jack looks in that pose versus Nick. And to me, Nick's waist looks pretty thick. But I guess at the same time, it also is a fair comparison because Nick still considers himself top 3 best in the world, and Andrew Jack on paper right now should only be top 5 best in the world. So on paper, if that's Nick's position that he's still top 3 best in the world, it is a fair comparison to compare the front lat spreads, and it's not that critical of Nick. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How do you think Nick Walker looks in this update? Again, it's considered to be probably not his best pose, so it's not intended to be, I guess, that impressive of an update. What do you think about Samson? What do you think about the IFBB rule? Now, next up in the news, Nick's biggest rival at that Pittsburgh Pro, in my opinion, is going to be Martin Fitzwater. Last time they went head-to-head, it was very close. Some people thought that Martin should have beat Nick at that New York Pro. And there's kind of a feeling in the air that the result will be different this time around between Martin and Nick. And we got this update from Martin today. And keep in mind, we're still a very fair amount of time away from the Pittsburgh show where they're going to be going head-to-head. It's on May 11th, so we got months to go. He's got cross striations in his quads, which has been kind of another critical point against Nick, is the quads. And Martin's quads look pretty ridiculous considering how far out he is right now. And I mean, this is about as neck and neck as a battle can get. Last time they were on stage together, it was very close. Last time Nick was at the Olympia, he was 3rd. Last time Martin was at the Olympia 2024, he was 4th. They are on a pretty level playing field when it comes to how competitive the two of them are physique-wise. They're like right there with each other, and I think it's going to be a very, very entertaining show. And like I said, I was watching Cutler Cast yesterday, and I believe it was Milos that even said he thinks this time around Martin will be victorious over Nick, which is a bold prediction, but I think that actually is entirely in the realm of possibility based on the career trajectory that Martin has had so far. I mean, Martin has been nothing short of extremely impressive in 2024, and I think as we get into 2025 and some of these shows that are starting off the year, I think he's going to continue that momentum and potentially even outperform his 2024 package. And Martin has been on record saying that this is his best look ever for his, like, he has been progressing, and his physique right now is the best it's ever looked. And I mean, when you consider the fact that this show is in May, he's got 4 months to go. And I'll show this other video update as well. This was from a couple days ago. I'm assuming this was also recent, where he looks like he's in incredible shape. He's 4 months out from the show. And he looks, I mean, if we're being honest, he looks like he's in better shape than some of the guys that we know for a fact are doing the Arnold Classic in just a few weeks. So I think that realistically right now, Martin seems to be the #1 guy to watch as far as a newcomer that has a ton of potential for this year. I mean, the guys that we talk about most often are the guys that we've been talking about the most often. Derek, Samson, Hottie, Nick, they've been in this conversation forever, and we're going to talk about them regardless probably 2025. But Martin is the guy that I feel like we need to pay a little bit of extra attention to, because I feel like this could be a really big year for him. And maybe this could be the year that Martin starts to knock off some of those big names that we've been talking about for a while, like Nick, Hottie, Derek, Samson. Maybe we see him beat some of those bigger names this year, including Nick. But if his goal is to improve his Olympia placing to top 3, that would mean for sure he would have to knock off one of those bigger names. And that's what we're really watching for. And I think aside from Samson winning the Olympia, because that was probably the biggest story of the year, I think it surprised a lot of people, and that was probably the biggest moment in bodybuilding of the year. Aside from Samson, I would say that Martin is probably the standout bodybuilder of the year in terms of, you know, that was a hell of an Olympia debut to place top 4, and his look there was incredible. And kind of anticipating whether or not he can exceed that this year, I think is going to be exciting to watch. Now, next up in the news, we've got the latest physique update from Regan Grimes as he prepares for his comeback to the New York Pro. Now, Regan, there's been a lot of discussion about Regan, and the opinion seems to be very split. There's a lot of people that really like Regan's physique. They really like his look here. They think he looks improved. And there's another camp of people that think it's just the same Regan, it's going to be the same result, and they don't see much improvement. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this in the comments below. I was already reading the comments on the last video, and that was kind of the impression that I got, was that same split kind of opinion on Regan's physique and Regan's future. Will Regan ever completely put that package together to be like a real threat in the IFBB? Because you look at the success of Samson Dauda, for example, a taller guy with a structure in the physique to hold a little bit more size while staying aesthetic. Regan kind of has that same quality. He's taller, he's a bigger guy, around 300 pounds in this video, albeit he's still like 4 months out. But do you think Regan still has that potential to be like a big star in the IFBB, or do you think that time has passed? Like I've said, you know, in previous videos, it does feel a little bit redundant talking about Regan's potential and talking about how well he could do, because it feels like, and it has been like 6 or 7 years that we've been saying that about Regan. It has been, you know, quite some time, but Regan is young. I believe he's 30 or 31. He's a pretty young guy. So in bodybuilding terms, he still technically probably hasn't hit his peak yet, which is typically around 35. So could it just be that we've been talking about Regan for so long because he got started so young, and he still is really young, and maybe he still has time to really maximize that physique, but maybe not. Either way, though, this is something that I'm certainly intrigued to see at the New York Pro, amongst other things, but Regan Grimes' comeback is something I'm definitely looking forward to. But curious to hear what you guys think in the comments below about this latest update, kind of a full posing video here. And the final story that I've got for you guys today, there was one other recent update from Brandon Curry, even though we got a really comprehensive full posing video just the other day. We did get a brief clip of his legs here from a leg day that he did here recently at under 6 weeks out from the Arnold. And honestly, even though Brandon's physique in that physique update that we got a few days ago looked a little bit downsized, I do feel like he looks at least his lower body. His legs look really impressive to me here for Brandon, for what we typically see from him proportionally. For as much as his legs get criticized, I think they actually look really good here. And I do wonder a little bit if maybe we're kind of counting out Brandon here. Maybe he does have a shot at being top 3 in this lineup. I'm kind of thinking, like when I think about this Arnold lineup, I'm obviously thinking about Samson, I'm thinking about Derek, and when I'm thinking of that top 3, right now I'm thinking either Andrew Jacked or Sean Clarita for that 3rd place spot. I think Samson and Derek will almost certainly be 1 and 2 in whatever order that ends up being. But 3rd place, right now I'm kind of thinking of Andrew or Sean. But does Brandon have a chance at cracking that top 3 and really being in the mix here? He is a former Mr. Olympia champ. And if you look at it that way, that would be a really exciting top 3, because you'd have 3 Mr. Olympias, Samson, Derek, and Brandon. And potentially Sean. Like I said, I think Sean has a really good shot based on what we've seen from him so far. But let me know in the comments below what your guys' top 3 predictions are for the Arnold. It doesn't have to be in order. It could just be who you think will be in a top 3 call-out. Do you think Brandon has a chance at being in that mix based on what we've seen from him so far at around 6 weeks out? Let me know in the comments below. That's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NickStrengthPower, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my 3rd YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.